Good afternoon, everybody. It is 2 o'clock. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting. Remember, this is broadcast live on the website and archived so you can view it afterwards. Ask Cabinet members to switch their microphones on and off when we're speaking. Apologies for absence, I have none. One additional item, obviously an announcement about poor old Ernie. It's with great sadness that I report that Ernie White died on the 2nd of January 2018. He was 76. He was first elected to the County Council in 1975 and has been elected every single time since then. So therefore our longest serving councillor. Served 11 terms in all, which is incredible. He always represented Stony Stanton and Croft. He was chairman of the County Council during the civic year 95 to 96. A member of the Cabinet in 2003 to date, and he obviously, as we all know, served in various portfolios. He was particularly good when he did communities and services for education, and then latterly he was appointed to do the health portfolio, which was a brand new portfolio at the time. I think he was an absolute excellent appointment, even though he wasn't my appointment. He was appointed by my predecessor, David Parsons, and as I always say, it's one of few decisions that David Parsons got right, and Ernie was absolutely excellent in that position, and he'll certainly be missed. In the short term, as you know, Pam is taking over Ernie's job, and he's a difficult act to follow. Would it be okay if I ask members and people present to stand for a few moments in silence to respect Ernie? Thank you very much. I do actually know when Ernie's funeral is, or although I haven't got it written down, the Chief certainly knows. Can the Chief just tell you when it is so people are aware?
Give me a minute. Back after the
Okay, I will do. The Chief's going to look it up. I know when it is, but it's on my phone. So if we go on straight on, we'll do the minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on December the 12th, 2017 are taken as read, confirmed and signed. Is that all agreed? Thank you very much.
Do it now.
Okay, so over to the Chief, who will tell you when it is.
On Tuesday the 30th of January at 11 o'clock at the crematorium in Nuneaton, all members should have received an email from me about it all in the last 2 hours.
Thanks, Chief. Microphone off, Chief. Very good. Urgent items, there are none. Declarations of interest, I've already been told that Blake's got one. Blake.
That's right, thank you, Leader. My interest is in item 7, Adult Social Care Transport Policy. Whilst it primarily refers to our in-house minibuses, for consistency I will leave the room as I'm currently a director of a Leicestershire-based taxi company. Thanks.
Thank you, Blake. Okay, early help review. First report today seeks approval to consult on changes proposed to the early help service and to investigate options for redesigning the service to support children and families more holistically. We've received comments from Deborah Taylor, Councillor for Bredgate Division, Jeff Walsh, spokesman for the Liberal Democrats, and Sean Sheehan on behalf of the Labour Group, which are attached to the report. Jane Moore, Assistant Director of Children's Services, will present the report, and then Ivan Old, Cabinet Lead Member for Children and Families, to speak. So is it you, Jane, or is it Paul? It's Paul. Okay, Paul.
I'm just going to kick off, Leader, and set the scene, and then Jane will give you some of the detail. Good afternoon, everybody. This is, unfortunately, another one of these reports that we seem to be having a lot of these days in terms of the pressures that the council's having to face, the financial pressures. So the reason why we're undertaking this review, there's a number of factors. The firstly is the general position of the council as identified in the medium-term financial strategy and the savings that we need to find there. That has to also be taken into the context of the service pressures that we're presently facing in children's social care, particularly in the area of SEND and children's social care services for looked after children, child protection. We also, the report notes that it's the government's intention to cease funding under the Troubled Families Programme in 1920, and that will have a direct impact on our Supporting Leicestershire Families programme that we're delivering at present. So that's another factor that we have to take into account. So those are the three factors where, again, we're presenting you with a paper about how we redesign services in order to get what we believe is a much more cost-effective model to deliver these services. So what Jane's going to take you through is a model where we're looking at integration of various aspects and that we believe will mitigate as much as we possibly can for the changes that are detailed in the report. I should explain it is a consultation, as the leader has explained. It's a genuine consultation. There will be a whole variety of events that will be held as part of the consultation, and the outcome of that consultation will be reported back to this Cabinet in the summer, when we will make a final decision about how we move the process forward. So I'll now hand over to Jane, who will go through some of the details of the programme that we're proposed in the report.
Thank you, Chair. Just to outline the financial context of the report, the current medium-term financial strategy includes a saving of 1.5 million for 1920 for a review of early help services. And as Paul's indicated, in addition to this, the DCLG has indicated that the Troubled Families money will cease in 2019-20, which together with the loss of partner funding would equate to about 2.3 million. So the report is in the context of a 3.8 million reduction in early help services. So we've undertaken a review of our 4 early help services, which is our Supporting Leicestershire Families service, our Children's Centre programme, our Youth Offending Service and our Early Help Information Support and Assessment. And we've detailed in paragraphs 19 to 36 an overview of what each of these services currently does. So in relation to the current financial position, the overall budget for our early help services we've set out in paragraphs 37 and totals 12.4 million. So the savings model that we have developed takes into account of the 2 strands of funding totalling the 3.8 million. And you can see in paragraph 44 we've broken down where we propose to take the savings from and removing 3.1 million from staffing and 0.7 from running costs. And the modelling does indicate that the reduction of frontline staff will equate to around about 290 fewer families receiving support at any one time. So following the options scoping, we are proposing a new model for our early help services. And we've outlined in paragraphs 49 onwards what this proposed new model would look like. It would look to integrate the 4 existing services together into a single 0 to 19 family wellbeing service, which would provide a core age-related offer targeted at our vulnerable children and families across Leicestershire, but still utilising the whole family model that was developed through our Supporting Leicestershire Families programme. And the new offer would be continued to be delivered on a targeted basis and would be delivered across 2 operational localities across the county, very much based on demand for services, deprivation, anticipated caseloads, and also alignment with key partners such as health services as well. The 0 to 19 proposed family wellbeing service would deliver a core and targeted offer from locality-based teams, and we're proposing it would operate from 15 service buildings, but also incorporate flexible delivery in people's homes and other community centres as well. And the focus of this new service would be very much to support those both vulnerable families in our communities with a view to supporting those families to function more effectively, ensure children are safe and prevent escalation to statutory services, which, as Paul's indicated, are already under significant pressure from rising demand. We've detailed in paragraphs 54 to 57 how we propose to deliver the model for our 0 to 19 family wellbeing service. In terms of the proposed service delivery locations, there are currently 40 early help buildings, 36 of which are children's centres and 4 are our Supporting Leicestershire Families buildings. We are proposing that the new family wellbeing service will be delivered by locality-based teams through a hub and spoke model, with 5 key public-facing family hub buildings located strategically across Leicestershire, supported by 10 spoke buildings for service delivery. And we do need to undertake further work to verify the proposed locations, and this will be undertaken in the next phase, for which permission is being sought today. We've set out in paragraphs 59 to 60 the proposed locations of the hub and spokes. So if I can take you to page 23, paragraph 65, alongside the benefits of greater integration and a single service offer, there are a number of risks associated with the proposals. The first of which is a potential risk of future increased spending in social care. We do know that one of the benefits linked to strong early help services is that support workers engage vulnerable families before problems escalate to the point of needing formal intervention. And we do know there has been a 61% reduction in step-ups to social care since SLF has been in place over the last 4 years. The second risk is a significant reduction in services for vulnerable families. The SLF and Children's Centre services currently support around about 880 families at any one time, and we're predicting that the 33% reduction in frontline staff would equate to about 290 families at any one time not receiving support. And the final risk is around having fewer buildings. So it means that service users in many localities will have to travel further, and there's a risk that that will create barriers for some families. There are a number of partner agencies who share space in children's centres, and there is a risk around capital clawback from the DFE as a result of the capital grants given some time ago. As Paul indicated, this report is seeking approval for us to go out to consultation, both on the new service model and also the delivery buildings. And we anticipate undertaking that consultation with families, carers, children, and also key stakeholders. The consultation will last 12 weeks between January and April, and a report will be brought back here in the summer this year. So to conclude, the report outlines the requirements to make the savings totalling 3.8 million from our early help services, and we're confident that the 1.5 million can be achieved through greater efficiencies and reduction in running costs, mainly through buildings, and won't significantly impact frontline workers. However, the 2.3 million funding reduction will impact on frontline workers, and we've indicated the number of families who would not be receiving support as a result of that. And we've also identified a number of key risks associated with the reduction. So to conclude, the recommendations are that the public consultation is undertaken on the model and the buildings, and that we do some further work on developing the new delivery model, investigate alternative uses for the 25 centres that we're saying that we would no longer use for the family wellbeing hubs, and that a further report comes back to Cabinet in summer 2018. Thank you.
Ivan.
Thank you, Leader. And in moving the motion on the Green Order paper, the concept of a family wellbeing service, 0 to 19, is one that should get unanimous Cabinet support. This is an excellent development, and I think the officers have done particularly well in terms of looking at what there already is and how it can be amalgamated to form an even better service for the future. If you take into account the fact that our youth offending service is very widely regarded as being in the top 10% in England, if you look at the supporting Leicestershire families, again in the top 5% in England, I would have personally applaud the officers for being able to come up with an immediate short-term plan, which is outlined in paragraph 42, that will only have a 4% reduction or the equivalent of 8 full-time posts. So that the rather shocking statistic that you then find in as one of the key risks in the second bullet point of paragraph 65, that we could expect a 61% increase in the number of potential children having to be taken into care if the figure stayed the same for the previous period, actually won't necessarily happen. Now, the reason that I've split it in that way, Leader, is because the issue of the supporting Leicestershire families funding, the 2.3 million, gives us time to negotiate and lobby with government through the East Midlands Councils, the LGA, and on our own back to try and make sure that the government fully understands the benefits of the Troubled Families Scheme. We've always called it supporting families in Leicestershire, and we know that the work that we've done with families has been very productive. It is all documented and shows the progress that families have made. That is largely down to the frontline staff who have shown, I think, extraordinary perseverance with families who initially at times basically told them to get lost. I could put that much more bluntly, but I'm sure Cabinet will pick up the drift of what I'm saying. Deborah Taylor has made a very good point, a particularly pertinent point, but I think if you look at the recommendations, it will be dealt with, because B1 actually asks the director to come back in the summer report, which will the potential effect of the proposed service changes on users and the new delivery model. That will have to include detail of any impact on organisations that expect income from the current use of the children's centres. So I think that Deborah's main point of concern will be answered when we, as I hope you will do, approve to go out and consult. I like the idea of a unified family wellbeing service that carries these 4 elements forward. But I might like the idea. What I now want to see is the outcome of far more detailed assessment as to what the proposals will actually mean. I would recommend to Cabinet that we support the proposals, Leader.
Thank you, Ivan. I will formally second. I don't propose to make any comments on it at all today, because, as you've rightly said, this is genuine consultation. Anybody else wish to... Blake.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to intervene and just pick up on what Ivan said about the representation we received from Mrs Taylor. I'm pleased to hear the lead member say that the concerns expressed within that representation about impact on buildings currently being used for other services, whether that be library or other types of services, that will all be picked up within the consultation, and I look forward to seeing where that consultation takes us and what the officers assess as being an impact based on these proposals. So I'm satisfied to support this recommendation, Leader. Thanks.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to say I've been a great supporter of supporting Leicestershire families and the children's centres ever since they first came into being. They do an absolutely wonderful service. When I first heard about this, I thought I might have difficulty being able to go along with it, but having read the report and seeing that we are going out to consultation and we are prepared to listen to both the users and the general public, who will obviously have their own views about it and come back to us, then I am happy to support this today, that we are going out for consultation.
Okay, no other speakers. Moved by Ivan, seconded by me. All in favour? Thank you, Paul. Jane? Are you staying for school funding, Paul? Okay, next report is the proposed school funding formula following the government's introduction of the National Fair Funding Formula for maintained schools and academies. A copy of the report has been circulated to all members of the Children and Families Overview and Scrutiny Committee. It was not possible for this to be taken to its next meeting due to the short timescale provided by the Department for Education. Jenny Lawrence, the Finance Business Partner for Children and Family Services, will present the report, and then I'll ask Ivan to speak. And you can correct me if I said something wrong when we get to your turn.
It's only your use of the word fair.
Indeed. Well, you'll be able to correct me further when you speak. Okay, are you doing it first, Paul?
Yeah.
Great.
So we are going to try and keep this relatively brief, because it is a very technical paper that's attached here as well. The first thing to say is that, as has been pointed out, we're actually responding to a formula that's been developed nationally. I think that's important for us to appreciate here. So there is good news in this, in that all of the schools in Leicestershire will actually benefit from the proposed changes that are going to come in over the next 2 years. That's good news. Unfortunately, we don't feel that on an ongoing basis it's absolutely clear that the government proposals are going to be able to meet the ongoing needs of Leicestershire schools. We know what will happen over the next 2 years. There is some discretion for us in the council over the next 2 years to adjust the formula. The intention at this point in time is that in 2021 we move to this standard formula. We've consulted widely on this, most importantly with schools, particularly via the Schools Forum. The proposals that are outlined in this paper we think are the best available option given the limitations of the formula. We have been supported in that with the Schools Forum, who also feel that the proposals here are the best options that are available to us in moving to a basis where we're as close to the national funding formula, which at this stage is proposed to come in 2021, and the sooner that we move to that, the better, to allow for financial planning moving forward into the future. I'm not going to say any more beyond that. As I say, it is a very, very technical aspect in terms of how you work all the funding out, and I can't see there's going to be any benefit in today us going through the nuances of how you work all those formulas out, other than every school in Leicestershire will actually get an increase on the back of this. So I'm going to stop there, I think.
Very good. At least you didn't use the word fair. Ivan's going to correct me. Ivan?
Thank you, Leader. Well, it is described as the national funding formula, and despite the promises in the Conservative manifesto, fairness is not associated with what's been implemented. You remember that the government carried out a consultation on their proposals. 93% of the respondents said that the proposals were out of balance, and 93% have been ignored. Where the government have moved, and where I'm pleased that they've moved, is that they have increased the funding to the lowest funded councils by 6% over 2 years, whereas some other schools will only get 1% over 2 years. Beyond the 2-year period, we don't know what the funding will be. If it isn't mainstreamed, then it will disappear, as indeed will maybe our responsibility as a local authority. And even the viability that we had to move money around between the blocks that existed in the last financial year has been further constrained by new guidance from the Quango, the Education Funding and Skills Agency. I've attended the School Forum meetings. I've listened to the debates. I know that Jenny worked really hard with representative people in a working group to come up with the proposals which are in here. And I felt for her when one member of that group who'd previously agreed, then at the forum meeting decided to disagree. It's pretty hopeless if you have a group to give you advice and guidance and work with you, and then when push comes to shove, they change their position. But I suppose everybody is able to do that. Technical document, I'd recommend to Cabinet we support the motion on the Green Order paper.
Thank you, Ivan. Richard Shepherd?
Thank you, Leader. There's nothing I can usefully add to Ivan's comments, but I'm very pleased to second the motion.
No other speakers? All in favour? Thank you. 6, in-house fostering fees review. This report seeks approval to consult on changes proposed to the fostering fee payment scheme, which will increase the entry-level payments given to prospective foster carers, which I think is particularly good news because we need a lot more foster carers working for Leicestershire. So over to you, Paul.
Yes. This is linked to a strategy we have in the department called our care placement strategy, and as part of that we're developing our local offer. So as the leader has pointed out, one element of that strategy is to develop our in-house fostering service, which to significantly increase the numbers of in-house foster carers so that we can more effectively meet the increased demands that are being placed on the council via the number of looked after children increasing, and equally will give us better value for money on the basis that at present it costs us around £15,000 a year less to place a child on an in-house fostering placement than it does with an independent fostering placement. And there is no difference in the quality of those placements, whether in-house or in IFA placements. It's a very, very competitive market nationally. Everybody's competing. Everybody's feeling pressures, different authorities, because of increasing looked after numbers. And you have to be competitive. I think we are competitive at most levels, but at the entry level, where we pay a very low level of fee, we seem to be out of line with some of our competitor local authorities and in terms of independent fostering agencies. So the basis of this report is to put us at that entry level on a par with competitors, and I do use that word competitors because that's the market that we're talking about here. It is very much a commercial market, and put her in a much better place to increase the range of foster carers. So yes, there is an investment involved in this, but we believe in the longer term there will be a potential saving in the basis that we will not have to use more expensive placements in the future. So that's the basis of the paper, Leader.
Very good explanation. Ivan?
Not a lot to add to that, Leader, in moving the motion on the Green Order paper. The table under paragraph 31, page 74 of the report, basically condenses what we're doing. We're removing level 0, and everybody will start on level 1, and then we're amalgamating levels 5, 6 and specialist. Those three areas at the end very much are almost idiosyncratic. They depend upon the needs of the individual child or young person, and it's those needs that determine the type of specialism that they get. So it makes really good sense to condense the three together, and we're in a much more competitive position when we move on to level 1. Having said that, on Friday morning, Louise Richardson, Chair of Scrutiny, Sean Sheehan, Trevor Pendleton, my Cabinet Support Member, and myself met with officers from fostering and adoption, and we were hearing a very good success story, including a growing appreciation of the support and advice that we give to foster parents, which is being contrasted very favourably with the independent fostering agencies, to such a degree that we've actually now started to recruit people who are on the books of independent fostering agencies. Now, the rub for you all is this: for every person who we can recruit like that, that will save us £15,000 a year in fostering fees. So it's something we need to build up on, and this proposal will do that.
Are you formally moving it, Ivan?
Yes.
And I've formally seconded it. I mean, it is really, really great news and a really good policy. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, moved by Ivan, seconded by me. All in favour? Thank you, Paul. Adult Social Care Transport Strategy. Blake's going out. This report seeks approval of the revised strategy, which has been updated to reflect changes in legislation and practices within the Adults and Communities Department. John Wilson, Director of Communities, will present, and then Richard Blunt, Cabinet Lead Member, will speak. John.
Thank you. The Adult Social Care Transport Policy sets out the circumstances in which the County Council will provide support to people who are eligible for adult social care to receive transport services where that allows them access to social care services. The commissioning of adult social care transport is the responsibility of the Adults and Communities Department. The provision of the transport service and the budget for the transport service lays with the Environment and Transport Department. The revision to the policy is required to ensure adherence to legislation following the introduction of the Care Act. And the new policy is broadly similar to the previous policy, which was provided under the Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act and the National Assistance Act. The threshold for transport hasn't changed, the eligibility for transport hasn't changed, And the 600 people who receive transport at any given time through the County Council will continue to receive those transport services, and their service will not be changed or affected by the change to this policy. There is therefore no need to consult formally on the policy, and there's no requirement to review the individual care needs of the people who are receiving transport. The policy covers everybody who is eligible for social care services, who's over the age of 18, who's a resident in Leicestershire. Where people receive transport services to support education provision, full-time education provision, that transport is provided through the Children and Families Service, and this policy is not linked to the school transport policy, which was consulted upon in 2017. I would just draw members' attention to the policy statement, which is attached to the report at Appendix A. And on page 83 of the papers under 6.1, it does state that the policy will be applied from December 2017. Clearly the policy won't be implemented until such time as it's been approved by County Council's Cabinet. Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you, Chairman. This is very simple, but we have to comply with the Care Act of 2014. The most important thing that John said then was this won't affect the users, so therefore it isn't contentious, and that's why it didn't need to go to consultation. So I'm happy to move the recommendation on the page 2 of the Green Order paper.
Thank you. Pam?
Thank you, Leader. I don't think I can add anything to what John and Richard have already said, so I'm happy to second this motion on the Green Order paper.
No other speakers? All in favour? Thank you, John. Stop Strategy and Stop Suicide Campaign and Pledge. Blake, has he got him back in? Yes, he is. Final report details work currently undertaken with partners to prevent suicide and seeks approval to develop a broader stop campaign and pledge similar to that which has been adopted in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. It was something I mentioned in my position statement at full council a while back, and I thank Mike for the work you've been doing on it, Mike. So over to you.
Thank you, Leader. As you say, this report takes its lead from your position statement at last full council meeting and updates Cabinet on the work we're doing to reduce suicide and seek support for an approach in line with the Stop campaign as the Leader has laid out. Firstly, I think it's important to recognise, as we all would, that suicide is a significant cause of death within Leicestershire. The numbers are relatively small at around 60 people a year, but that's still around it's over one per week. And obviously, each suicide causes an immense amount of distress to families and friends and colleagues and indeed communities, and it disproportionately affects young people. Going back to 2016, the Parliamentary Health Select Committee published an inquiry into suicide, and that report was set out a number of things that should happen. It called for local authorities to lead work into reducing suicide. It said that local authorities should publish a strategy setting out what they should do. And it also said that local authorities should provide support services for those at risk at suicide and provide training for frontline staff in order for them to raise awareness, for instance. Within Leicestershire, as we set out in the report in paragraphs 19 to 23, we start from a relatively good baseline. So we have got such a strategy that's led by the Leicestershire and Rutland-wide Suicide Audit and Prevention Group, and that's appended to the report. And as you can see, there's a range of initiatives that do take place around awareness raising and supporting people. So, for instance, in connection with the World Mental Health Day, we're often down at the Leicester Railway Station for a joint piece of work called Are You OK? That involves Leicestershire Partnership Trust, Network Rail, ourselves and the Samaritans. So there is good work going on both across LL and R and also across Leicestershire. But it's clear that in comparison to what's been achieved through the Stop Suicide campaign in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, there is more that we could do. And paragraph 30 sets out a rough gap analysis between where we think we are locally and what's been achieved in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. Notably, I would say they probably deliver more and they provide more support and training, but I think it's really important that they just have a better coordination and visibility around the whole area. I kind of feel that we hide our light under a bushel within Leicestershire and across Leicester City and Rutland in connection with what we do, but there is more we could do in a coordinated fashion. So I believe there are three things in the paper after paragraph 30 that we can take forward to close that gap between where we are and where Peterborough and Cambridgeshire would be. Subject to Cabinet approval, I think there are things we can do within public health, leading within public health on behalf of the Council, by reprofiling the spend of the public health grant on mental health promotion and by an ongoing staff restructure within the department that would give us a dedicated staff resource to help lead the work in the way that Peterborough and Cambridgeshire have done, and also put in place this coordinating website and the pledge and the campaigning bit of the Stop campaign. So I think that's something that we can do off our own bat. We can lead with partners through the existing group a call for a broader reach, if you like, similar to the Stop campaign, and again support illicit partner contributions in a way that we currently do to help expand the work of the current work. And lastly, paragraph 33 refers to a further bidding round from the NHS. Now, it's always easy to say we will seek external funding to help us deliver our work, but I'm pleased to say since the last council meeting, the NHS have actually announced a round of funding expressly around suicide prevention. And I know Mike McHugh within my team has had early conversations with CCG colleagues in particular about putting in a collaborative bid, and I'd like to think that what we've done so far and what's set out in the Stop approach would be a strong bid. Of course, there's no certainty that we'd be successful, but I think we'd be in a good place. Thank you.
Excellent news, Mike. I mean, when you refer to young people, it's actually young men in particular who are more prone to suicide. So I'm really happy with the work you've done, and I'm really happy that there's some good potential for some funding. So thank you very much indeed. So I'll move the motion on the Green Order paper, and I've got you next, Pam.
Thank you, Leader. I think this is an excellent paper, and it really spells out exactly what we have been doing before we've come out with this strategy, and gives us really good. We've already got good links to build on with partners to work to carry out the good work that's already been happening. So I look forward to seeing this develop and the results that we get.
Blake?
Yeah, I just want to pledge my support to the recommendations in the paper, and I'm sure Pam will do a brilliant job in bringing this forward and shaping it up. But I just want to put on record, Leader, I was present when you first raised this at a meeting of the Cabinet, and I just want to put on record that leadership matters, because this paper would not be here if it were not for the fact that the Leader took a personal interest and raised the profile of this issue in Leicestershire and insisted that the County Council had to do more in this respect. So I just want to thank you for taking the leadership and bringing this on the agenda, Leader. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Blake. Right off, Blake. Rich?
Yeah, through you, Chairman. I'm sure it's covered in the report, but clearly the way this is measured is the rate per 100,000 of the population. I want to ask through you if it was known what our rate was in comparison to Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, and would that be the target we'd be using to see if we were performing as well as they are?
Bit of a difficult question for you there, Mike. Have a go.
Yes, you saw my grimace. I don't know how we can compare with Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. I could find out, and I'm sure we put it in the minutes. What we do know is that in terms of Leicestershire, our rate is lower than the national average. So again, there's a sense of scale. I'm not highlighting this as an issue that is of extreme importance to Leicestershire, unlike other areas, but it remains a significant cause of ill health, a significant cause of death in the younger population. So it's important in its own right, regardless of where we stand.
Good. Well, I've moved it, Pam seconded it, and we'll await further reports. All in favour? Thank you, and thank you again, Mike, for the work you've done at a relatively short notice. Agenda item 9, items referred from overview and scrutiny. There are none. Any items that the Chairman has decided to take as urgent, there are none. Thank you for attending.